Good afternoon and welcome to Metra AV Tech Tips. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And welcome aboard. So Adam, go through the house cleaning requirements at the beginning of the show.
Yep. So first and foremost, everybody, thank you for watching today's episode.
Which is about?
We're talking about HDMI 2.1.
Okay.
And some of the do's, don'ts, problems, not problems, all that kind of good stuff. But before we get to that, of course, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, hit that little bell notification to let you know whenever we do go live, which of course is every Wednesday at 3 p.m.
And
now Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah.
Now, what's the difference between today and Friday?
So, of course, on Wednesdays, we are doing tech tips for you. We're giving you good information out there, or at least we're hoping is good information anyways. But it's all about getting good information out there. It's concepts. We're not really talking about our products specifically. But then on Friday is the day that we do talk about our products specifically, how they work, and we try to wrap it into what happened on the Wednesday episode. So, of course, today we're talking about HDMI 2.1. So this Friday, we are going to be talking about our new Velox AOC cables that we have.
The 8K fiber cables.
Yeah, now I keep saying AOC cables because that's just phonetically better, but that's saying cables is what's happening whenever I say that, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting thing. So anyways, now before we go too far, of course, we finished up with our CS IRKit CCUS and AIO 2 giveaway. And we will be announcing the winner for that on this Friday's episode, so come back and watch that episode. But we do have, for the next 4 episodes, we do have a new giveaway. And this time, we're going to be giving away our Velox HDMI AOC.
Now, I'm going to have to assume, because we are selling those things faster than we can get them, you physically have one set aside.
I have 4 weeks to find one. Is basically how that has to play down.
Because they are selling like crazy.
They really are. And honestly, no, we do have one for you. And I actually have it on order. It'll be on its way here shortly. But yeah, right? So here's how it works, of course, like the other giveaways that we were doing. Here's how it works. You go ahead and leave us a comment over in the chat section or in the comment below on this episode, the next episode, the 3rd episode, and the 4th episode. Now, this isn't a series. We're not going to do anything like that. But this is your opportunity to be put into the run-ins for that giveaway. It's just a raffle. And so we'll go through and randomly pick the winner at that point, and whoever has left a comment.
Now, let's be honest. When he says randomly, we're going to pick the comment that most entertains us.
There is no weight. No, we don't do that. We do actually do random. We use a random number generator to find it.
I want entertainment, darn it.
So that does come down to it, though. Leave us comments
on
today's episode. Yeah, and on next week's episode, the week after that, and the 4th week after that. So leave us comments in the comment section below if you're watching this after the fact, or if you're with us live, of course, leave us a comment over here in the chat section, preferably about what we're talking about today. But of course, if it has anything to do with the AV world, we want to hear about it, so that will also put you into the runnings for it.
And we certainly appreciate any comments that say I'm substantially better looking than my partner here. I don't anticipate any.
Well, no,
but I'm hoping.
So anyways, yeah. But anyways, so
wait, before we get in any further.
Yes.
You posed a problem to me this morning and a solution that you worked on while I have been out in the field for the past 2 weeks.
Yes.
And I found this to be a very interesting problem, and it actually kind of ties into today's broadcast by sheer damn luck. But I would like you to go over it because I think this is something the dealers should see.
Yes.
And know, because it really was an interesting situation.
Now, before I do that, which I'm with you on that, but before I do that, what I do want to talk about first, though, is we now have, so everyone was asking about the new Crestron home system.
Ooh,
and whether or not we would have drivers for it or modules for it, so to speak. And the truth, we do have an announcement for it. So thanks to Digital Automation, they're actually a driver or module creation company. We now have a driver, or they have the driver for our new our HDMI matrices. So the 4x4 quick switching or HD-based models and the 8x8 quick switching or HD-based models. So those are available. The link to them is down in the description below. It is a paid-for module, so you'll have to pay them directly for it.
But it drops right into your Crestron home.
Exactly.
And it works.
Yeah. So go check that out if you are doing Crestron Home. Honestly, I'd like to hear from you. If you're doing Crestron Home, please reach out to me. I have a lot of questions about that system, and I would love to hear from.
Because I'm a simple Windows programmer.
Yeah.
And other than knowing that the home is behind the word Crestron,
yeah,
I don't know,
you don't know anything about
it.
Honestly, reach out to us. We'd like to hear from the dealers what you think about it. I could very simply call up Crestron and get information from them, but I want to hear from you out in the field.
We want to know the real world.
The unfiltered. We want the unfiltered info on it. So give me a call. 386-202-6132 is my direct line. You can, of course, email us as well. We've updated our email address. Adam.Rogers@Metra AV, and of course
Brent.McCall at Metra AV, and my phone number is identical to his except a 7 at the end instead of a 2.
So 386-202-6137 is Brent's number.
And it does follow me everywhere I go, and
same with me.
Still keep my hours.
Yep, exactly. So with that said, now let's go ahead and get back into what we were talking about.
The problem, because this was a little bit unique, and your solution surprised me because it's a very elegant solution.
And it works.
And it works.
Yes. So, of course, we're talking about how to prepare for HDMI 2.1. That's, of course, today's episode. But this is actually the inspiration for today's episode. So we talked to a gentleman over on the West Coast.
A regular customer.
Yeah, a regular customer. And I believe he knows who we won't drop any names or anything like that. However, what we have run into for the inspiration for this episode came down to this. The problem. Well, we'll talk about the problem first. So, not to call out specific brands or specific products, but this is what we found. Specifically, the 4K Control 4 matrix that they use. It's the LU862D. That model of matrix being used with a DNM, that means a Denon or a Marantz 8K receiver, is not working. Just period, not working. Doesn't matter if it's a 4K signal. It doesn't matter if it's a 1080p signal, 480p, 480i. Nothing passes through. So, luckily, it's not a problem with the HDMI chip itself. It's an EDID problem. Is basically what we've surmounted it to. Because if we bypass those AVRs, so let's lay out the system before we do anything else. And actually, I'll switch down.
Yeah, switch it overhead. I'm going to step out of your view so you can draw.
Oop, I hit the wrong button. There we go. Okay, so basically how it's working out is it goes from the C4 matrix into one of the DNM 8K AVRs, and then from there, of course, the AVR then goes out to a display of some kind. In this case, it was either an LG or it was a Samsung. It was actually both of them they had. The same layout, same setup, LG or Samsung. And the problem was that you just had no connection whatsoever, no picture at all going out to the display. And in fact, there was no audio either, if I remember correctly. And if you're watching this, you can actually put it down in the chat section. You know who you are. But essentially,
that guy.
Yeah, it was that guy, right? So with this problem, this is what was happening. We were going from, it was actually just in fact, if I remember correctly, it was just a 1080p signal that we were working with. I don't believe it was a 4K signal to begin with. So we were doing 1080p, and we did try different resolutions to see if that was going to make any difference to it, and it did not. There was just absolutely no picture whatsoever or audio for that setup. So, luckily, we do have a solution for this. So anybody who's doing the C4 matrix that they have, the LU862D is the specific one that we were working with, and you run into this problem, there is a fix for it. So what you're going to do is you're going to go from the matrix, and then from here, you're going to go out to the, actually, specifically, you're going to go to our AIO2. That piece there, yes. So you're going to go to the AIO2. From the AIO2, you're actually going to go to our CS-1X2 HDM SPL5. Brent, do you think we can come up with longer model numbers? Can we work on that a little bit? Just make that a little bit longer, do you think?
I'm sure we could throw 1 or 2 more acronyms into that.
So from here, you're actually going to break it out again. So you're going to split this off. What you're going to do is output 1 is going to go to the AVR. So that's still on the screen. Output 2 is going to go to the display.
And the only drawback to this is you do lose the on-screen graphic for volume.
Yes, you do. Now,
that's it.
Luckily, with Control 4, they've now added it to where you can get the on-screen for like the SR260 or their Neo remote. You can get feedback for the volume on the remote itself. They've added that in as of, I think it was last year they added that in. So you do have that, but you do lose the on-screen volume control or volume display. But what this does, it actually does a couple things. We tried this to go through the sequence of events. We first tried just the 1x2 SPL5, and specifically we used the SPL5 in its copy mode. We copied the EDID information of the display because as soon as we bypassed the AVR in this setup back here, we found that we had picture and we had audio. As soon as you take out that 8K AVR, it works fine. So we knew that we had connection. We knew that the matrix was working correctly. Everything was fine there. So what we did was we bypassed it. So by copying the EDID of the display and taking that information and sending it back to the matrix, we found that it was working. However, we ran into a problem. What was happening is he would go from an AV input and he would go to an audio only input. And then when it would work fine. Everything was good to go. It was hunky-dory. Hunky-dory. Goodness, if I can speak correctly. From here, if he tried going back.
Isn't that the fish in Finding Nemo?
That was, yeah, Dory. Yeah, Dory at that point. And she wasn't very hunky, I don't think. And that was...
It's honky-dory, not hunky-dory. It's honky-dory.
Hunky-dory? Mm-hmm. Okay. I won't say anything else. With that, if this was fine. Going from the AV to the audio source was fine. And if you are a Control4 programmer, you know that if you select an audio source alone first, the display doesn't turn on. And so you don't really have that much of an issue. But what was happening is when we would go directly from the audio source back to the AV source, so the audio and video source, it would not work. We would actually lose picture, and if I remember correctly, I think we would lose audio as well. So that's where we put in the AIO2. Now the AIO2, we're actually not using the normal function. Now, Brent, you and I talked about this earlier. So,
and this is something I do want to test with him.
Yeah. Actually, if you know who you are, give us a call back. We have an idea, or actually, I'm going to call you to let you know what's going on. But normally, we would say, okay, well, that's fine. We have a chip error, right? So we just need to go. It's like the HDMI 2.0 and the 1.4 issue. We just need to do a hot plug interrupt and tell it to renegotiate, right, and find out which chipset to use. That's not what's happening. So we actually bypassed this function here on the AIO2, which is
Real quick, how do you bypass that function on the AIO2?
All you have to do on the AIO2, this Phoenix connector, we just literally took a Cat5, twisted piece of wire and just jumped this Phoenix connector. So you go out one side into the other side, and that jumps that connection. It closes that. We talked about last week relays. It closes that relay connection in there and makes a full connection on that. This is the fix for this scenario. Put the AIO2. Here's what we think is happening. We're still testing on it.
This is what we think.
Yeah, this is what we think. What we think is happening is that with this, the AIO2, as well as the Junior 3.
The Junior 3.
Has a delay built into this.
Well, and it's more than that. And I'm going to trade places with you a second.
Go ahead.
When you look at EDID, we talk about the ones and zeros of EDID. A 1 is 4.7 volts. We call it 5. A 0 is not actually a 0. A 0 can be anything, and we've talked about this in previous broadcasts. A 0 can be considered anything less than 0.9 volts. What we don't know is if the chipset that's in the new D&M might be requiring a lower voltage. And we've seen this with other products in the past, meaning it might want to see 0.6 volts instead of 0.9. Now, the AIO and the Junior 3 both fixed this, so what we're going to do is get a Junior 3 out to this gentleman to see if it fixes it. We don't know yet. Now, the AIO does a lot of other stuff than the Junior 3. It supplements voltage and current on the TMDS or video feeds. It supplements voltage and current for both the 5 volt and the hot plug. And we know this works. We're still not 100% sure why.
Are you cursing on our live stream?
Not by intent, by accident. So, and certainly not like our previous shows where 4 minutes before the show we were live and didn't know it.
Yeah.
So either way, the AIO2 and the splitter is the fix for this C4 matrix issue, and it does work. And I truly applaud Adam for working out this solution, because it is a unique solution to a very unique problem, and it's an awesome way to handle it.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I was really, really happy that we found a solution, and it was probably, It was one of those things. Actually, we had been working on this problem for a couple weeks now, actually, to find a solution for it. So what we finally come up with was this fix here for it. And what's happening, again, we're not entirely sure what's fixing it. We know we've fixed it, and it was actually kind of fun because we ran into a little bit of an issue when after we put all of this together. That system, the C4 matrix or the Control 4 matrix, it does a scan of all of the EDIT information that's coming back from it, and it logs that, and it uses that for like the highest common denominator to know what it can output. They had done it to begin with because they thought that would fix the problem, and so we erased it and reset it so that we could try it again. And what was funny is that they had someone working in another part of the house, and when they were doing something over there, we had just put this together and he was testing it, and they made a changeover on that side of the house, and it triggered something, and it stopped working, and we're like, oh shoot, that wasn't the fix for it. So I had him, okay, let's look at it again, going back over it one more time, and had him put it all back, unplug everything, plug it all back in, and try it one more time and just see what happens. And then he couldn't get it to fail. And so we then communicating with the people in the other part of the house that were working on something else, we found out that, they were doing something at the same time, and things were happening.
Yeah,
so
much like my Light in LA story, where something completely separate happened and still shut you down.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's kind of one of those things where, fair warning, when you're out there working on something like this and you're calling up tech support and something else is going on, it's worth it every once in a while just to try it one more time.
And just ask the guys around you, hey,
hold on one second while I try this. Yeah, what are you doing over there? Don't touch anything while we're trying this first.
And by the way, when we ask, when we ask the simple questions, have you also, not to sound like I'm patronizing, but have you in fact done this?
Yeah.
We ask that question because we have made those mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. So
now, anybody using this matrix,
if
it's come across this problem, we'd be curious to know if you've dealt with it and how you dealt with it. Now,
please.
I do have a thought on the overall reason for this.
Yes.
Which ties exactly into today's broadcast, which is the 2.1 chipset.
Yep.
And we're going to get a little deeper in that, but I also have another conundrum to pose to some people.
Yeah, this one is actually, you and I talked about this
and
before the episode.
I don't have an answer yet.
Yeah,
so
we need more information is what we need.
Have seen issues with the Yamaha 80 series AVRs and Samsung frames, where everything works fine when the Yamaha's not in the system, through a cable box, an Apple TV, a Roku, whatever. And it all signs in, works, you got audio, you got video, there's resolution lock, everybody's happy. But when you put the Yamaha in, it's not working.
Right.
And Avantage has been traditionally a very solid product for us.
Yep.
But Samsung is obviously an interesting, and the frame, I don't think is the same Samsung as the other Samsungs.
Yeah.
The 2021 Samsungs have proven to be more problematic than the 2020 models.
Yes.
And I'm curious if anybody else has seen this issue with the Yamaha and the frame, and if so, under what situations, and did you find resolution?
Yeah, and actually, this is actually one of the things that I found, actually.
Actually? That sounds like a rock
when
band.
you are dealing with, and someone else may have run into this before as well, the Samsung frame, specifically the 32-inch, this is the one that I ran into problems with. The 32-inch has problems with EDIT information because, I may be wrong with this, I haven't done enough research on that unit yet. I believe it's one of those ones that's like accepting 4K, but it only has a 1080p display or something like that. Anyways.
Now, see, LG has a product just like that too, a smaller TV.
Right.
That falls under their fancy, does all settings in their pro world.
Yeah.
But it actually doesn't do all.
So
it just is in that category, and when you look at the actual specs on it.
Yeah. So here's what's happening with this one here, and this is how we fixed this particular problem. It was hooked up to a matrix, and it wasn't getting picture of any kind for any of the sources. And it wasn't even just a blip of a picture and then nothing. It was just no picture whatsoever.
No signal.
And luckily, I reached out to a colleague in the industry and asked him if he had run into anything like that before. And he said yes, that in fact, that one, for whatever reason, if it's not getting the EDIT information from the TV all the way back to the source, it gets a blank image. I'm not sure if there's some kind of EDID echo that has to happen from the source device that then communicates back to the TV, and TV says, oh good, I am actually connected to you, or whatever it is. But as soon as you copy the EDID information of that Samsung TV and send it back to the source device, which you can do that with our matrices, it fixed it. All of a sudden, everything started working fine. So, if you're running into problems like that, let us know. I'm curious to see if that's going to be a solution for you. And hopefully in the future we have a product that can maybe help out with that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, now, before we get too far, before we go any further, we have a lot of comments already.
Oh, good. What do we got?
So first off, the experts talking about the comments and questions and stuff for us in our chat section. They're saying,
we know who you are.
Yeah, or questions that stump you. Yeah, bring them on. We're happy. Stumped questions are always fun.
Those of you who know me, know I have no problem looking like an idiot.
And then Michael Heiss is asking, and I'm sorry, is it Heiss or Heiss? I really apologize for that. He says, if this is only on the HDMI 2.1 input, but if other HDMI 2.0 inputs work properly, it may well be in the Invictus chip that is used for 2.1.
Ding, 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 ding.
We're working on that. That's one of the questions that we have. We're working on getting some products in here so we can actually test it and find out for sure what's happening. Just like you guys are running into problems of actually getting HDMI 2.1 products, we are too. So you're not alone. Manufacturers are having problems with this. He says there are also issues for 8K sources such as games with that input. Marantz, Denon, and Yamaha are all said to have that problem.
Ding, 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 ding.
It has been known for some time. No word on a solution yet.
Ding, 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 ding.
So,
ding.
Yeah, you are correct. That is something that, actually, that's part of what we were going to talk about today is what is working, what's not working, and how to solve some of those problems. And actually, what I'm hoping for is that some of the stuff that we did with this fix here might work with that. Now, of course, the 1x2 SPL5 is only an 18 gig splitter, or an HDMI 2.0, so that won't work with it. However, maybe something with the AIO2 will. We're working on trying these things. Again, we need this stuff here so we can actually test it. And again, we're all working on this together.
The Samsung frame's on my list. The TV's a whole lot easier to get right now than the 1080 Yamaha.
Yeah. So we're working on figuring that out. Now, Federico Romo is asking, 18 gigabit cables in any brand are not really capable of allowing 4K 444 signals with HDR. And then Michael Heiss jumps in. He says, if the total bandwidth needed, did you not turn off your
but
ringer?
The volume's down and Bob's calling me. He knows we're in the middle of broadcast.
He did it on purpose, I bet. Anyways, so Federico's asking, 18 gigabit cables are not really capable of allowing a 4K 444 signals with HDR. Hold that thought. Michael Heiss is saying, if the total bandwidth needed is over 18 gigabits per second, then it is at best to use a cable certified with HDMI LLC for that application. So, here's the thing.
So, what was the spec he was asking for?
He was asking 18 gigabit cables are not really capable of allowing 4K 444.
4K 60.
Yep.
4.
So we have a really great episode on this. Go back and look at our.
Do we have a color depth rate on this?
We're going to go.
He said HDR, right?
He said HDR, so we're going with 10.
So it's going to be 10 bit.
Yeah, 10 bit. So the truth is that you can go out there and you can find a cable that's capable of 4K 60, 444, 10 bit, HDR, all that kind of good stuff. It's capable of that. However, not all at the same time.
Well, or more importantly, the electronics aren't, even if the cable is.
Yeah. So, for instance, our cables are, especially the shorter cables, especially those, but even up into longer distances, the 24 gigabits per second cables.
Well, see, and here's where it gets a tad bit iffy. And I tell you why. Let's go back to, may I erase some of your stuff?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. While you're talking about that, the answer to this, Michael Heiss is saying the answer to this will come with the next round of AVRs, as they will use HDMI chips from 2 other vendors. I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you, sort of thing.
Integra claims that they're getting theirs out in June, August.
Michael, who do you work for? I'm kind of curious right now because you have a lot of insider knowledge. I'm really curious to see who you work for. Shoot us an email. I'd love to chat. Anyways, so Brent, you are going. We're jumping off topic a little bit, aren't we?
Well, but we're not, because it takes us right into 2.1.
Yes. What are you looking for?
I was looking for something to dry this a little bit. But
it's already pretty much there.
So, we're going to talk basic HDMI. When you look at an HDMI cable, a 2.0 approved cable, which is high speed.
Yep.
You've got 3 channels. And each of those channels is 6 gigabits per channel. Now, so we've got 12, 6, and 0 on all 3 channels, red, green, and blue. Now, in order to get 4K 60, 444, 10-bit, you need just under 24 gigs. So you're not going to get that on an 18 gig cable because, plain and simply, 3 times 6 is 18.
Right.
However, if you have a 2.1 chipset, and you can use all 4 channels, because that's where the difference between 2.0 and 2.1 really starts to shine, because in 2.0 it's 4 by, depending the rating on the cable, it could be anywhere, depending on the length, from 3 gigs per channel to 12 gigs per channel on shorter cables. So at that point, you're capable of supporting that, but it has to be done under a 2.0 chipset or 2.1 chipset instead of a 2.0 chipset, because you need all 4 channels. Right now, I don't anticipate anybody supporting this under a 2.0 chipset, because even if the cable's capable of 12, and some are, the electronics within that 2.0 chipset are not. So this is still a pipe dream under current. Going forward, it's not. And one of the things that Adam and I were talking about earlier is the value of 4K 120 with variable bit rate versus 8K for gaming. I'm not a big fan of 8K because unless you got a really big picture, the 8K is not as important as the higher refresh rate or the variable bit rate. And I'm a big fan of the variable bit rate in gaming.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Because that legitimately makes a difference in what you're doing.
Yeah. So, so Brent, we actually have a little bit of a CEDIA famous person in the chat. So Michael Heiss is actually...
is he the trainer?
He is, Michael is the guy with the test pattern suit.
Okay.
Okay. So, so Michael...
Is this did I see Michael at CEDIA UK? Michael, did I see you at CEDIA UK 10 or 12 years ago?
Probably, possibly. By the way,
doing a class.
Congratulations! You got the. You just recently, about 6 months ago, got the CEDIA Lifetime Achievement Award. If I remember, we just looked you up. We just Googled you.
You gotta love Wiki, don't you?
It's great. So welcome.
And thank you for the help, Michael.
Chat. Yeah, thank you. Honestly, this is.
And we appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, let's reach out together. Maybe we can work on something together. Okay, so. So
we may have already. I just don't remember.
You probably did. So Brent, you just went over to bring us
basic
back on
math.
the topic. You just went over the basic math on that and how that kind of works out. So Federico, I hope that helped you out. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. Of course, you can reach out to me, adam.rogers@metraav.com, or you can call me 386-202-6132. Or you can reach out to Brent, and he can give you much more detailed information about it.
Now, obviously, we're not here to poo-poo or down on anybody's electronics or products.
No, yeah.
I am, however, a tad bit concerned about anybody claiming to be able to put in a safe 2.1 8K system right now, just because there's still a lot of ongoing ifs in the electronics and the chipsets.
Yeah. Michael says, you'll get my bill in the mail. Give us a call. All right,
no price for Michael.
Yeah. Okay, so what I do want to talk about next, and let's see, where is that? There we go. We'll hit that button there. Okay, so Brent, you kind of went over HDMI 2.0 just a little bit and did some math real quick, right? Which kind of rolls into our recap of what is HDMI 2.1.
Okay.
So you talked a little bit about it. You talked about the variable refresh rate, which is a really great feature for gamers.
Now, and see, here's the thing. When you look at 2.1, features are every feature is an option.
Yeah.
Nothing is a guarantee.
Yes.
For example, the Xbox Series X.
Yep.
The PlayStation 5 have 2.1 chipsets in them.
Yes, they do.
Do they currently support 8K content?
No.
And why not?
They just don't support 8K content is basically what it comes down to. They support the variable refresh rate, but mostly it's because of what you were just talking about with the fact that bandwidth requirements, because for instance, the Xbox Series X supports the variable refresh rate of 120 hertz at 4K. Now, if you do the math on it and you figure it out, if you try to do 8K 120 hertz,
no,
you are doubling, if not
way
more,
beyond the bandwidth of 2.1.
Exactly. So HDMI 2.1, of course, the main
The goal is 48.
The goal is 48 gigs. When we talk about HDMI 2.1, it's not really fair to say, oh, HDMI 2.1 is 8K. Well, yes, it can be, but really HDMI 2.1 is just the next set of features for HDMI.
So is every Mustang a V8 hot rod?
No.
There you go.
There you go. So HDMI 2.1 is capabilities are 8K, 4K 120.
But 8K at what?
8K. Well, okay. So there we go again.
See?
So you can do 8K 60, or you can do 8K. 8K 60 420 8-bit.
Right. And who wants 8K 60 420 8-bit?
Not really a whole lot of people.
I guess if you're watching television, but not for gaming.
Well, I mean, at 60 hertz, you could get gaming at 60 hertz is really what people are looking for. That's kind of like the minimum.
And actually, I think it's
what people are looking for.
I think it's 8K 30.
No, you can do 8K 60 so long as it's 420
8-bit.
8-bit. Now, if you do anything higher than that, you're going to be looking into some issues with that.
Which would you rather have, 8-bit or 10-bit on your color?
Yeah. I would rather have the 10-bit. For the color depth, you get much greater capabilities for color, but then of course you have to go to 8K 30. So we have HDMI 2.1 is everything that HDMI 2.0, 1.4, 1.3, 1.2, 1.1, and 1.0. All those capabilities all the way back, right? Or are we getting something else in here? Leo say, hey Leo, it's good to see you in the chat, bud. He's saying, but all Mustangs are curb hunters. I don't know what that means. Is that derogatory?
It's a big thing on the internet where Mustang owners peel out when they leave car meets.
Right.
And they eat curbs.
Oh, they eat the curbs.
Oh, those are the guys that hit the...
Yeah.
Oh, that's me.
Like you did in the Miata.
Yeah.
It's always a Mustang.
It's always a Mustang.
No, it's also Miatas. I did that at the end of Walker.
It's you when you're driving anyways. Let's see. So anyways, so HDMI 2.1 really is, it's all the capabilities of HDMI before it, so 2.0,
right.
1.4,
it's a feature set that you can check off. And the thing is, you can't have everything.
So really what HDMI 2.1 is just a bandwidth, it's a speed limit. It's a bandwidth limit. Are you doing more drawing? You're doing more art?
Yes, I am.
I'll switch you over.
You have column A, column B, and column C.
Yeah.
And you can't pick everything from everyone. So let's say we want to do, we got 8K and 4K, because everything else is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Over here we've got 24.
Is it though?
30, 60, 120. Ooh.
Right.
And then we've got 4220, 422, 444, and then we've got, you know what, I'm going to add column B because we got color depth.
Okay.
We got 8-bit, 10-bit, and 12-bit. So here's the thing. The higher the first number, pretty much the lower every number has to be after that.
Yeah.
So you will kind of wind up with something like that when you start with 8K.
Yep.
Well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You have that backwards. You have the other stuff backwards too. Just change this one. Just change this one.
That would make too much sense.
Do you all see what I have to work with?
That marker isn't fun over the...
it picks up the squeaks.
So now if I start with 4K,
you kind of go the other direction.
I can go up. And when we add variable bitrate to this, and give me the gamer's description of variable bitrate or refresh rate.
So when you have, okay, well, gosh.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
I was going to say, you really put me on the spot with this one. So variable refresh rate, of course, is basically where if your graphics card can't keep up with what frame rate you're doing, it can actually slow down the refresh rate of the display. So you get a cleaner, which actually helps with the tearing issues that you run into. When you have the tearing issues, you actually will see like half the image will be a frame or two ahead of the second portion of the screen, and that's where you get the framing. So the variable refresh rate actually helps to get rid of that, and it allows your gaming system, whether it be an Xbox Series X or your PC with like the NVIDIA 3090 or 3080 or 3070 series, the ability to catch up. And so if a lot of stuff is happening on the screen, a big explosion and big particle effects and everything else are happening, it allows the system to slow everything down, still get a really good picture during that time, but then it allows it to come back up again after that, so it stays nice and smooth.
If you have something that has a lot of color in it, you can slow down the refresh on the screen.
Yeah.
To get the more vibrant colors.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of motion on the screen, it will pull some of the color back to allow the motion data. Because you have a fixed roadway.
Yeah.
You can have refresh cars, color cars, and bandwidth trucks.
Yes.
You can't have the best of all of them fitting on the roadway at the same time because it's too heavy for the road.
Right.
So we have to balance the load out. And that's the nice thing about the intelligent gaming and TVs on the 2.1 is it actually looks at what's happening on the game or in the movie.
Yep.
And will adapt to it.
So you have something kind of interesting. I would really be curious to see if they're ever going to use variable refresh rate on media content other than games.
I would think so.
That'd be really cool.
Because particularly with streaming, you know, one of the things I asked you earlier is how much bandwidth does it take to send 8K down YouTube?
Yeah. So no one really agrees on that number, by the way.
Well, gee, I go figure because the color depth, the refresher, there's so much that has to go into that.
Yeah. It's anywhere from 50 megabits to 300 megabits per second is kind of the range that I could find online and just doing some quick research on it. But so 8K stream is going to require probably quite a bit.
When you're looking at a 2.1 system, I don't care what it is, know that you have to check off, you have to look at what the client is expecting. And just like in the old days with 1080 and 4K, they're not going to get 4K 60, 444, 10-bit, I don't care what Oppo tells you.
Yes. Yeah.
And we've all taken the call. Yeah, my customer expects this. Well, he's not getting it, and here's why.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with 2.1. Now, 2.1 is capable as a spec, I love the little quotes there, of 48 gig. What's the chipset capable of in this?
40.
What's the chipset capable of in the PS5?
32, 36?
32.
32, yeah.
So are we going to get 8K with all the good stuff on either of those devices today?
Nope, not yet. So,
and the chipset that's in the D&Ms, it's in the products, the TVs that are out there now.
Yeah.
They're also 99% 40 gig.
Michael, is there a difference between VBR and VRR, variable refresh rate? Michael's saying VBR has been used for content distribution for years as it helps fit the content
YouTube does it.
into the fixed limit of optical discs. And so that would be...
And so does YouTube, a version of it. As we have seen, when you watch, you know, you can watch a YouTube video and you can see the change in...
Yeah. So...
And thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you so much for that. So what we've got going on then, we talked about, you know...
We're going to have to pay him to be a fact checker.
Yep. Careful. Don't say too much yet. The bit rate has to do with the encoding. The actual bit rate for the production is dealt with in the mastering. He says, yes, VBR and VRR. So, okay. So, we talked about the inspiration for this episode. We talked about a recap of what is HDMI 2.1. The HDMI 2.1 is a feature set that does not go over 48 gigabits per second. That's
currently. Because they're going to have to go to another revision to go beyond that.
Yes.
Now, the fact that the spec goes there doesn't mean the electronics will yet.
Yes.
It's much like having a 160 mile an hour speedometer in your Pinto.
Yes.
It looks great on the dashboard, but it doesn't do any good.
So let's talk about then what the next part of this is what works and what doesn't.
Shorter's better.
Shorter run HDMI cables are better. And if you can get away with a shorter cable, we're talking 2 meters. There's some companies out there that are claiming for 3 meters. We are still working on our own certification for that because we don't want... DPL Labs, of course, we always work with DPL Labs on most of our cables.
And here's the short reason why. HDMI has done a really good job, and kudos to them particularly. They've done a much better job with 2.1 than anything else they've done to date.
Yeah.
In both establishing the testing processes, the RF processes, and validating that people are actually doing it correctly.
Yeah.
However, HDMI is not as complete in bandwidth testing as DPL is.
I love this. He's going exactly where we're going. Randall is saying 8K is also going to place some severe length constraints as you get up to 40 gigabits and higher. He says that dang physics thing starts getting in the way. Most approved 8K cables are in the 2 meter range. You are correct. To the truth of the matter is that at 2 meters, you're going to get it. You're unless it's a really bad cable, you're going to get 8K. You're going to get 48 gigs.
Well, you're going to get 40 anyway.
At least 40 anyways. Yeah, to test that.
To go beyond that, you're in the realm of fiber. You just are.
Yeah.
And just because it's fiber doesn't mean it's going to get there, because there's a lot involved. You've got the quality of the glue, the quality of the termination, the quality of the electronics, the quality of the terminal. People have no clue how important the terminal has become in this. Yes, sir.
How long is 2 meters?
How long
6
is 2
feet,
meters?
A little over 6 feet.
Just over 6 feet. Yeah. So you do the conversion on that. It's
39, a little over 39 inches per meter.
Yeah. Rule of thumb: if for 1 meter, it's 2 feet or 3 feet. Pardon me.
Size HDMI cable?
6 feet is
the
usual.
The sad part is, in our world, no. When you look at a rack, yes, you can get away with a 1 to 2 meter cable within the rack. However, unless your TV's sitting right here, and honestly, even here, a 2 meter cable,
it's not long enough.
It's not really long enough for us to do service.
Yep.
So, unless your gear is right underneath the TV, 2 meters really is not a viable length of wire.
I love this. Michael saying, physics, it's the law.
Damn that law!
Leo is asking, does HDR or dynamic HDR increase the data rate and then decrease the available resolution availability?
No!
No.
That's a damn good question.
So, that's...
And why?
We actually had a great episode, thanks to David.
Yes.
What was his,
the guy from Australia?
Mayer.
David
Mayer. We had a great episode with him.
Because we were both wrong in this.
We were. And actually, so the truth is that HDR data is still there. HDR data runs on the outside of the picture.
It's metadata. It's not data.
Right.
And here's the thing. If you have a TV that's capable of HDR...
Yep.
Now, and there's a difference between HDR and dynamic HDR.
Yeah.
If you have a TV that's capable of HDR, a single code is sent saying, you're going to set the panel to this.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the data for the panel, it's just saying set the panel to this.
Yep.
And it's kind of like Dolby Atmos in that it's an object-oriented, because if your panel is capable of 750 nits, and the metadata says, okay, you set to this point, it's not a nit point, it's a value point. So if you have a 750 nit panel, a 1,000 nit panel, a 2,000 nit panel, the metadata is the same. It's how the TV interpolates it.
Yeah. It works. There a lot of math is happening all at once. And again, we didn't get into the math last time, and I'm not getting into the math this time because I don't understand it. But the truth is that you're right. All of that's running on the outside. So when you see a picture, a number of pixels on the screen, just a really quick overview of how that works. When you see the pixels on the screen, that's not all of the data that's coming across. There's actually pixel ranges literally outside the border of the
Under the
screen.
overscan.
It's the overscan portion to it. So the data for HDR is actually running on the outside of that. So when you look at HDR versus HDR,
Dynamic HDR.
Dynamic HDR, thank you. When you look at dynamic HDR, the only thing that's happening is that metadata is changing frame by frame, or potentially frame by frame.
Now, it's not a guarantee. We're back to it's an option.
It's
the
what
fact that you have dynamic HDR, it may be by scene.
Yeah.
If you've got a very dark scene, the metadata may say, don't give us too much brightness.
Can you tell we're a little excited about this? We get all geeked
Giddy.
out. Yeah, there's
like little schoolgirls.
Thank you for asking these questions, because when you ask these questions, it means that you're really interested in it, and we love that. And we love to teach you guys about this, so please keep them coming. We love it.
Dynamic HDR simply sets the standard for the movie.
Yeah.
Dynamic HDR could do it frame by frame, or scene by scene, or chapter by chapter, or just the movie. It's an option.
Yeah. It's whatever the director's vision is for that. Then, of course, you've got Dolby Vision, Dolby Vision, which is, again, it's a dynamic HDR. It's a different type of dynamic HDR.
Before we forget that, make sure if you've got a Sony, do the most recent update.
Oh?
Because remember what you found, it's handling Dolby Vision better on the Sony panels.
Yes. That was
a week and a half ago.
Yeah. And I've already forgotten what was going on with that.
Remember, well, we were having an issue, and so you did the latest update, and for the first time ever, you saw an advanced Dolby Vision option on the Sony menu.
Oh yeah, that's actually fairly that's been around for a little while. Come to find out.
Oh, we're just late to the party.
We've just never. Yeah, we're late to the party on that. But yeah, no, there's
thanks
a
for letting
menu
me know that
I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, anyways, now you're live on air making an ass of yourself.
Yes,
so.
thank you.
That's what I live for. Okay. So
it's going to cost you. I just want you to know that.
Leo says 2 meters equals 6.56168 feet. Thank you very much for that conversion.
Thank you, Leo.
Leo, you got a little too much time on your hands.
And then Federico is saying, I see a new range of extenders coming. Unfortunately, a good 18 gigabit kit is not cheap. The 48 gigabit ones will cost a fortune for some customers. We're still working on something like that.
HD Base T has dangled some future in front of us, but that's it.
There's going to be a lot of compression that has to happen because, truthfully, the kind of distances that you have to go, even with an extender,
doesn't do it.
It's going to be difficult. We're working on some stuff, and stay tuned. Hopefully, we'll have something for you.
Fiber is the better way to go for the future.
Commenting about Michael's physics is the law. Randall saying, but I never studied law, so Bugs Bunny.
You may have never studied law, but gravity still works.
Hopefully one of these, maybe what they're talking about doing with, you've got the thing going on right now where apparently warp drive or warp technology is theoretically possible. You just have to shorten
space.
You have to shorten space in front of you and expand space behind you, which basically makes that happen.
Yeah, you're just folding space over.
So maybe what needs to happen is that we need to get warp technology for our data.
I think we just do black hole data transfer.
Just black hole data transfer. Problem solved, right? Mm-hmm. You good?
I'm having an anxiety attack.
All right, back to topic because we're running out of time. Okay. So what works and what doesn't work? Well, distance is still a problem, and it was a problem for 4K. It was a problem for 1080. It was a problem for S-video, right? It was a problem.
Yes, it's
way back then.
It's always been a problem.
Yeah, it's always been a problem. So it's going to be a problem, and it still is a problem.
Now there are some solutions.
Yeah,
our VLOX 8K fiber.
Yep.
Does the job.
Yep.
And it goes out to 100 meters, I think.
100 meters, I believe so. I think that's the longest one. Yes, 100 meters. So
the solutions are real. Now, let's talk about this real quick, and we've mentioned this in previous broadcasts.
Yes.
As bandwidth goes up, what else goes up? Current demand.
Current demand, yes.
So that is why we include 2 power supplies on the 8K cable.
So you're kind of jumping into, and not to cut you off, but you're jumping into the next topic.
I am.
And before we get to the next topic, and you are correct, and you're it's current draw does come up. So what else doesn't or does work right now? Well, good news is that you can get 40 gigs on this Xbox Series X. There you go. You can get 40 gigs on an Xbox Series X.
And it does look awesome.
Yeah.
And if you've got the right panel with the variable refresh and bitrate.
Yep.
And we have certainly not that we've enjoyed playing games at lunch, because we would never enjoy doing such.
Never.
Because this is a work environment.
Yeah, of course, work environment. And I've never done that on the clock.
No,
definitely not.
Certainly not for testing purposes.
No, of course.
Unquote.
Yeah, no, it's all testing purposes. That's what it's for. And Michael, you actually perfect timing for this. Just to confuse things further, he says some of the chips we'll see in AVRs and TVs are 40 gigabits per second, despite the true limit of 48.
Yes.
Xbox Series X, it's a 40 gigabit limit. PS5, it's a 30. Is it 32 or 36?
I think it's 32.
So they are limited also. Now the truth is that
they may be firmware updatable. We don't know.
Yeah. So
that information's not shared.
You're very right about that. And the truth is that you probably won't see 48 gigs for at least a couple of years. I'm assuming anyways right now.
What are you going to use for content that's going to push that?
And that's the thing right now is the only devices that are out there that really do 40 or 48, and not even 48 at this point, are gaming consoles or video graphics cards for computers. There's a few test devices out there that are doing the 48 gigs to verify
You've been trying
things.
to put together a serious gaming computer. Are the parts available?
No.
No.
Graphics cards are not available right now. You can thank the crypto mining community for that. Thanks, scalpers. You're great people. Appreciate it.
So let's talk about hardware.
Yes.
We've got an 8K television.
Yep.
We've got a 2.1 source, and we've got a quote-unquote 2.1 8K AVR.
Yep.
Everything works fine till it doesn't.
Yes.
And we've seen this with all of the 8K AVRs. Pick
Yep.
a brand, any brand.
Yep.
And sadly, to date, the only solution we have found is a power cycle.
Yeah.
It's not a hot plug reset. It's been a power cycle.
Well, from what we're seeing so far, and this just comes from tech calls and stuff that we've seen out there, is that, again, we're still working on solutions for a lot of these problems. HDMI 2.1 is brand new, essentially is brand new for what we've been seeing.
Because we're just getting our hands on products.
Yeah, and so at this point, we're still working out solutions to find out what exactly is going on, but we're seeing that potentially what's happening is that a lot of the processors that are running these systems get locked up. It's not so much the HDMI chipset getting locked up because a hot plug interrupt would fix that.
Right, it's inside the AVR.
Yeah, and so a lot of times just a power cycle is fixing that. So you may want to look at investing in some kind of automated system to where you just automatically reboots the equipment. You know, put it on a timer of some kind. But even
shut it off at night and turn it on in the morning.
You may have to look into something else that's actually going to fix that as well. A help button of some kind.
Now you cut me off when I started talking about power demands.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So for the next part.
Okay.
Okay. So, is there light at the end of the tunnel? How do we get the best picture?
Well, what is the best picture?
My air quotes, right?
What is the best picture?
What is the best picture?
Live. Go to the concert, sit in the second row, and watch the band live.
Yeah, just go see it live. Go there and watch it there.
Best picture and sound.
Okay, short of that, short of going to the concert, short of being there in person, what is the best picture? Well, again, going back to what we talked about before about what is HDMI 2.1 with the different pick and choose, whatever you want to do, up to 48 gigs, what is the best picture? Well, for me, honestly, it's a picture. Having any kind of picture on the screen at this point, under the 2.1 specification, reliably, is the best picture. Because truthfully, it's difficult right now, guys. If you're out there doing installations, let's see.
By the way,
so Leo, you can do just a lamp timer. That's fine. Oh, did we lose that? There it goes. You can put it on a lamp timer. It's literally just killing power. We're not talking about actually unplugging anything and plugging it back in. You can do that as well.
Now, this is not a 2 or 3 second reset. You need to let it do a capacitive discharge.
Yeah, but I don't think you need to do like a full copper disconnection, right?
We're just talking about at least minutes power down. Should allow you to do the full discharge.
But doing it overnight makes the difference. So. How do you get the best picture? With the best picture, what we're looking for is, one, a picture of some kind, but it's the best picture that you've assigned for that TV or that display. So if you're using an Xbox Series X, a 4K at 120 hertz is probably the best picture that you're going to get on that Xbox. If you're using something like an NVIDIA graphics card that can do, like a 3090 that can do 8K capabilities, you're probably looking at 8K.
Well, that's an interesting statement, because at what point can you legitimately see the difference between 8K and 4K resolution to legitimately say, you know what, that is crisper?
Well, for somebody who's not older than dirt, you can't actually... Oh.
By the way, that's legacy fella.
Just throw it out there, right?
That's legacy fella.
Legacy. Someone who's not a legacy fella, or fellow, you can, at a certain level, tell the difference. Now, of course, now we're getting into the realm of how far away do you need to be from the screen before you actually see a difference. And that's kind of what we're getting into right now of, well, why would you do 8K if you can do 4K and not tell a difference and still get better performance?
And more importantly, I would rather have more color and a higher refresh rate.
Right. Yeah. So
to me, the resolution is less important to me.
Yeah.
As a legacy fella.
Well, let's ask. What's your definition of the best picture for 8K or for HDMI 2.1? You tell us what your best picture is.
Under 48 gig.
Under 48 gigs.
That's our banner. And look, there's plenty of charts that you guys can look up online.
Yeah.
And that are excellent guides. And they don't count HDR because HDR is not part of the data stream per se.
Yeah.
So don't worry about, okay, is it HDR? What you're looking at is color depth.
Yep.
Your 420, 422, 444.
Yep.
Refresh and resolution.
Yep.
What is to you the best picture in your eye?
Now, regardless of what your best picture is, the way to get the best picture starts with the infrastructure, right?
Ooh, are we back to the infrastructure episode?
Infrastructure, yeah, we had a great episode on infrastructure. Go back and take a look at that. So before we get too far, Leo, you're having too much fun with
is he on the calculator again?
No, he's just having fun with the smiley faces. So when we're talking about infrastructure, we had a really great episode on that because infrastructure is what everything is using to get the picture across. Some of the perceived benefits of 8K have to do with more than just pixel resolution versus seating distance. Ah, interesting. So Michael is saying that studies have shown that some of the perceived benefits of 8K have to do with more than pixel resolution versus seating distance.
Okay.
So that basically what, if
Michael,
I understand.
I'm going to put you on the spot. You have a 65 to 75 inch television. We're going to assume it's an 8K capable TV.
Sure.
Because why else will we...
Perfect world. Okay.
Right. So here's the question. Would you rather see 4K 120 high bit color?
Yeah, 12-bit or something like that.
Versus 8K 30, 8K 60, lower color.
Yeah.
I know what my opinion is because I can't, unless you, my opinion, if you don't have 100 inches or larger, you're not going to really perceive the value that 8K gives you over 4K, in my opinion.
Yeah. So going back to that, the infrastructure is really what everything is working on. So that means the source device, the cabling, the extender if there's ever an extender for it, the display, the AVR that's in the middle of all of this. All these connections are part of what's known as the infrastructure for that.
And
so
the next thing is when you're looking at the infrastructure, all 8K TVs or all 2.1 TVs are not created equal.
This is true. So putting that aside, before we get into starting up a war of some kind of who has the best display, which maybe we should do that anyways, looking at the infrastructure really comes down to having the best possible cabling that you can have in between. So obviously you have limitations when it comes to, say, like the Xbox Series X or the PS5. Today you have those limitations. You may not here in the future. Again, if those are firmware updatable to get higher bandwidth, that would be awesome, but I'm not sure they are.
When we started the Beach project, 4K was just becoming, not 4K HDR with the good stuff.
Sure.
4K was just hitting the market.
Is that how long ago that was started?
When I did the other house, we did it in component.
Okay.
Because there was no HDMI.
Yeah.
So how do you set your infrastructure up?
Yeah. I mean, at that point, you set it up for what you have available
right
at that
now.
time. Yeah.
Really, you put conduit in.
Yeah, conduit.
Conduit is the best answer.
Yeah. Honestly, what it comes down to is if you are under the 2 meters, put a good cable in place. Put something like our Velox.
I'm going to say 3 meters.
3 meters?
Say 3, yeah.
3 meters?
Yeah.
It's still on the well, with 40 gigs anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, at that level.
The reality of it is you're going to see 1, 2, 3, and some 4s out there. I know there's some testing to get to 5. We're working on 5.
Yeah. So we have some really cool comments.
Okay, go for it.
So Randall's saying for him it's a minimum of 4K, 12-bit color, 444, 60 hertz, 100 megabit variable bit rate. Man, we are at an hour. And source material edited without truncated color or bit rate. Quote him, he says starving.
You know what I really want to know from Randall? What's his dating profile for his dates? Because he's got a very defined...
he knows what he wants.
He knows what he wants.
That's what it comes down to.
And what's the bandwidth to accomplish that?
Let's see, 4K, 12-bit color, 444, 60 hertz. So we're still down at that. 100 megabit variable bit rate and source material edited without truncated color. You're basically at 24 gigs, maybe just over 24 gigs.
I'm going to say you're somewhere between 24 and 28 on that.
Yeah, you're basically. Well,
so
I mean,
you're
honestly,
into the 2.1 chipset domain, and that is a very doable request.
Yeah. Yeah,
without question.
Very easy to do, and you get really great picture at that level.
And it'd be an awesome picture at that level.
Yeah. So you got to think, if you're doing 60 hertz, you're doing 60 frames per second. If you were to double that up to the 120, you would be over the 48 gigs.
Yes,
or right at 48 gigs, which is very difficult. So at 60 hertz, you're probably just fine at that refresh rate.
12-bit is a trillion colors.
Yeah. There we go. So we've got, man, some great comments. Guys, keep them coming. This is great stuff. We are at an hour, though. We have to kind of wrap this up. So Michael's saying that you don't have the choice in most cases. You take the output of the source device and sync upscaled it to the native rate of the display. You don't want to harm the stream along the way. Really great
what's
point
our goal
with
on cables?
To be as transparent as possible. Yeah. We don't want to touch the signal. We want to pass that signal as cleanly as possible.
By the way, that's not just our HDMI cables. I'm going to step off topic slightly, but we treat our analog speaker wires, XLRs identically.
Yeah. Let's see. Leo is saying to add to that, on an 85-inch TV, 8K would show added benefit as the pixel to inch would provide a clearer image over the whole panel versus a 55-inch TV. You are correct.
I'll grant you that one.
Yep. Michael is saying for non-game video content, the raw files have considerably more than what you see in the final version. How that is handled is up to the post-production people. Yes. Huge difference between what our Blackmagic 4K camera captures versus what you see on the live screen, even more so than you would normally see on any other uploaded video, because of course live stream there's a lot of compression happening. Let's see, things may be shot in 444, but you'll likely never see that due to the limits on the transmission bandwidth and the CDN capacity. Yes, so basically when you're running into the best picture possible is that raw data that's captured from the camera itself. However, when you look at the raw data that's captured, it doesn't look very pleasing to the eye when you actually look at it. And we had a really great episode with David again, where he talked about seeing an HDR display that was almost to the full color depth.
5,000 nits, I think he said.
But also the color depth capabilities of the display as well were almost to that point of, and I'm forgetting what it was called.
BT 2020.
BT 2020, where it was almost there, and it looked amazing. But even on those displays, if you took the raw image and looked at it, it would actually look very dull compared to what you would want to see. That would be more pleasing to the eye. And so thanks to the color correction and the engineers that do that part of it, you get that really nice picture.
It's like an RIAA curve for phonographs.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Randall's saying picture quality over pixels all day long.
Pick me.
Yeah, that's where he's going with that. Man, this is a great episode again, guys. Thank you so much for these comments and questions and everything else.
And the next question is, should we continue this episode again down the road? And the next 3 episodes are already booked, so we can't change those.
Yeah, the next 3 episodes are already good to go.
I think there's a lot more content to... I think we should reach out to Michael directly.
Yeah.
And see if we can get him involved in one of our broadcasts, Michael.
Let us know. If you don't mind, shoot me an email, or you can shoot Brent an email. We would love to do an episode with you.
We told David, if we're wrong, let us know.
Yeah, please do. We'd love to talk about this stuff.
You know,
to the point where you're allowed to talk about it. You know, we don't want to get you in trouble or get us in trouble as well. So whatever is allowed to be talked about, we'd love to talk with you about it. Let's see. That's why my friends in the post world make the big bucks, often with the DP over their shoulder. Yeah, yeah, they really do. They're really engineers. They are artists.
They're more than engineers. They're wizards.
They really are with a lot of that stuff.
There's a lot of. It's not total math for them to make the picture look good. It's like speaker designers.
Yeah.
A speaker designer that relies entirely on math.
Yep.
Versus a speaker designer that's legitimately an artist.
Yeah.
You're going to have a speaker that looks great on a piece of paper but doesn't sound so good.
Yeah, doesn't sound that great.
Versus a speaker that sounds great but may not look that good on paper.
Yeah. Leo's saying yes with live comparisons. Is that for the... what was that for, Leo? I'm sorry. We're on a little bit of a delay, so I miss what you're talking about sometimes. So anyways, guys, we are past an hour. We love talking to you. This is really great stuff, and we would love to continue to talk about this. Brent's right. If we have an opportunity to extend this topic to talk about other things with HDMI 2.1, that seems to be a hot topic with everybody right now, of course, with the new specs and everything coming in.
Maybe Friday we can get into it a little bit.
Friday would be a great time to do that.
Because you're doing the AOCs. Now, one of the things that Adam and I are working on is trying to get one of every 2.1 product, which right now is hen's teeth and unicorns.
Yep. Yeah. And we'll be working on things like that. Actually, Brandon, that's a really great idea. This Friday is our episode where we're going to talk about our HDMI AOC and for our vlog series, which of course is an active optical cable. It's our favorite.
Operates within the 48 gig domain.
Yep. It's also the one that we're giving away. So of course, remember, comment on this episode either over here in the chat or down in the comment section below if you're watching this after the fact to be put into the runnings for that cable. And we're going to have that going for the next 4 episodes.
Guys, I got to say, I can't allow Michael in on this because he's a ringer. And nothing personal, Michael, but you could destroy everybody in here, and that's just... and I appreciate it, but we'll get you something on the side just because.
Yeah. Air TV 4K will have 2.1. Oh, really? Apple's new Air TV 4K will have 2.1.
Okay, now I saw there's a new Apple TV 4K. What is Air TV 4K?
Well, that must be the new model. Yeah, I haven't looked at that
I
yet
saw
at all.
I saw it, but it's still called the Apple TV.
Oh, Apple TV 4K. Okay, yeah. Apple's Apple TV 4K.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, guys, we do have to wrap this up. I'm really sorry. This is really great content. I love to talk about this stuff. So now you kind of know what's going on with HDMI 2.1 in a little bit of a better light. We like to kind of come back to HDMI 2.1 every once in a while because we're
learning stuff every day.
Well, we're learning stuff, but also there's so much new information that we really want to get out to you, the dealers, and the installers that are going out there to do this. And it's
we didn't even get to the power issue.
No, we didn't. And power is an issue.
That's got to be Friday. We got to really talk about.
And we will, because that's a big feature for that cable on Friday. We'll talk about that as well.
Friday's not just. We're not just talking about cables. We're going to cover the power requirements, because as you go up in bandwidth,
yeah,
power requirements also go up.
Well, yeah, it's huge power requirements. Leo was saying, Brent asked if doing this again. Yes, but was showing comparisons between products, displays, and resolutions. I would love to do that if I had the product to do that. And we're working on that, because we need to have our own testing, our own products for testing stuff anyways. And hopefully in a very, probably in a much longer future episode, we'll be able to do something like that. But we'll see about that. So Leo, really good idea for that.
And don't forget, guys, we're looking for information. Anybody that's done the Yamaha 1080s and the Samsung frames, we want to hear from you. What was the other one?
The Control 4 with the DNM AVRs, or actually probably any of the 8K AVRs with the Control 4 Matrix, which I heard are now end of life. So you probably won't be seeing those matrices much for much longer.
And if anybody's got their hands on a Yamaha A4 or A6 or 4A, 6A, whatever they are, the new 2.1 chipset version, I'd love to hear your experience.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
We haven't been able to get our hands on one.
So, guys, thank you so much. We will talk more about this on Friday. So come back Friday at 3 p.m. Of course, you can reach us either through our contact information here, or you can also reach out to us on Instagram. We are at AV Tech Tips on Instagram. So reach out to us there as well if you have questions, or if you just want to show us some project that you're working on. We'd love to see that as well.
Send us gift certificates for lunch.
Yep. Sure. Brent's not too proud to bag, I guess.
I'm not proud.
Yeah, no. So, anyways, guys,
you have any idea what it's like to feed this belly?
Oh, no, I understand. Well, look, I fully understand.
Yes, but yours is shrinking.
I'm working on it anyway.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Have a great week.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Turn off CEC.
Oh gosh, call tech support. We'll see y'all next time.
Have a good day.